Yes, thank you very much. I just want to make a few comments about the statement of intent, because I, as you know, led the negotiating team of the Democratic Alliance in those negotiations. And the reason that we had to move so quickly was not because there was a parliamentary deadline for the convening of Parliament as some arbitrary date. It is because the Constitution of South Africa says that Parliament must be convened and a president must be elected 2 weeks after the election. So that was an unmovable deadline. And the bad faith of the ANC began in those negotiations. And in fact, they changed the entire draft the night before the parliamentary sitting. And we had to decide what were our non-negotiables. We did a lot of compromising, as you always have to when you're putting together a coalition. But the one thing that we were absolutely determined was unmovable was the mechanism of decision-making in the new Government of National Unity, which is largely a coalition government. And we had agreed that that method of decision-making would be by sufficient consensus. And the president, the night before, in his own office, tried to whittle down the definition of sufficient consensus, and we stood firm and were prepared not to vote for him if that clause was whittled down. Well, frankly, in the interim, the ANC has ignored every single clause of the statement of intent. We insisted that it was signed by Fikile and Balula before we agreed to vote for the president on the 14th of June last year. But frankly, that signature isn't worth the paper it's written on. Clause 18 says that all decisions in the Government of National Unity will be taken by consensus. And if you can't get consensus, it will be by sufficient consensus. And then under Clause 19, there is a clear definition of what sufficient consensus entails. There's supposed to be a mechanism to apply sufficient consensus. It has never been implemented. Instead, the ANC, in bad faith, tried to put together a clearinghouse mechanism which turned out to be nothing other than an attempt to get around the sufficient consensus clause. And it was a complete farce. All of the legislation to which I think Nkosinathi referred to was actually passed in the 6th Parliament before we got into the Government of National Unity. So that limited our leverage.